children specifically are falling for this. So the first number I'm going to give you an idea of what is happening, and there's lots of studies in this regard that are out there, but just to cite one study that showed that, and they looked at a large group of transgender youths, and they found that 52% of those youths had one or more DSM-listed psychiatric conditions in addition to gender dysphoria, so believing that they're transgender. So 52%, one or more other psychiatric conditions. Now, the other side of this debate will frequently explain that away by saying that the reason they have these psychological and emotional conditions is because they're bullied and they don't fit in and people don't accept them, so what we need to do is we need to implement programs like SOGI 1, 2, 3 to make society more accepting of them, and that will solve the problem. The problem is that doesn't work, because there are some other demographics at work here that, in my opinion, prove that we are targeting our most vulnerable children. I'm just going to look at two examples. The first one is autism. So the studies on this are fairly extensive. Depends on which study you look at, but the studies vary and show that between 8% and as high as 54% of the transgender youths that they looked at were on the autism spectrum. Now, the doctor that I'm going to be naming here in a bit, who is the preeminent gender specialist and psychologist in British Columbia, he himself has admitted that 20% of his child patients are on the autism spectrum. 20%. I usually say it's about 30, so let's say it's somewhere between what he says and I say, and that's 25%. That number doesn't become alarming until you realize what the prevalence of autism is in the general population, which according to the CDC is 1.7%. For 25% of transgender youths to be on the autism spectrum is alarming. And that is way out of whack. There's nobody out there who would suggest that being transgender causes autism. So this supports my thesis that this is very vulnerable children who are falling for this ideology and going on to these drugs and becoming lifelong pharmaceutical customers and being sterilized in the process. Now, this whole debate became very personal for me a little while ago when the doctor who I'm going to be naming gave a talk at the Vancouver, I believe it was Vancouver Public Library. And people should know about me that I was a foster child in British Columbia. I used to be a ward of the province of British Columbia. I went through multiple different homes as a child. So I was, thanks to a secret recording that was done by Culture Guard and Carrie Simpson, given a copy of this talk that this doctor gave at the library. And one statistic that he mentioned in there that stood out to me and alarmed me and made this extremely personal for me was that he said of his 1,000 child patients, half of them, 500, were from the Ministry of Child and Family Development. Half. Now, I have tried to talk to this doctor personally about this, and I have talked to the doctor's lawyers, and they said, well, he's got a special relationship with the Ministry of Child and Family Development, so that's not anything particularly surprising. So, I mean, when I say that, by the way, what we're talking about are foster kids like I was, and kids in unstable housing situations, and kids otherwise in the care of the government. The thing is that if you take that 500 number, and I did some number crunching on that, at the time that number was released, the province of BC had about somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 kids in their care. So when I did the math, I found out that 7.7% of all children in government care were identifying as transgender and under the care of one doctor. 7.7% of all children in care, if the numbers that he has released are correct. Now, that's just one doctor. There are other doctors out there. The number may be as high as 1 in 10. Wow. Compare that to the regular population for transgender, which is estimated to be about 1 in 200. That is startling. And this is one of the reasons I've been calling for provincial and national inquiries on this immediately, because these are extraordinarily vulnerable kids who are being preyed upon. Now, this doctor who has been involved in this was also involved in the AB versus CD case. He was the doctor, he was the psychologist that dealt with the girl and ultimately ended up recommending the girl for testosterone therapy, which led to his whole chain of events that has resulted in the father now being put in jail. So I'm going to name this doctor. Some of you are going to know what the name of this doctor is, but I'm going to need you for just one moment to stop streaming, please.